The Final Furlong Podcast is proudly brought to you by Geoff Banks Bet. Join the excitement and sign up to Geoff Banks Online now to get 10% off any net losses returned as cash after your first month of betting up to £500 at geoffbanks.bet. Welcome to the Final Furlong Podcast. I'm Emmet Kennedy. Great to have your company. We really appreciate you being here. If you have not done it yet, hit the like button. If you're listening to the podcast, you don't need to worry about that. But if you're watching us on YouTube, just hit that like button. I'm apparently supposed to do this an awful lot more often. So thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoy the show. George Gorman is here with us, and returning to the Final Furlong Podcast after an absence is my colleague from TalkSport 2 and William Hill Radio, Lucy Russell Hughes. Lucy, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Emmet. Yeah, good to be back, thanks. It's been a while since we last spoke. But I suppose life's been busy and everyone's been busy. So yeah, great to be back.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. When the flat season comes in, you do know your stuff about jumps racing, but for some reason, this show is just drawn to you for the flat. So we're delighted to have you back on. Looking forward to your insight. We'll begin with the Irish 2000 and 1000 guineas at the Curragh. There's a bit of a trend emerging. We've now had 6 classics. We'll mention the fact that the German one went to Karl Burke as well, which was great and well done to him. But there's 6 Group 1 classics between Britain, France and Ireland. None of them have gone to Irish trainers. Maybe Ireland is dominating national hunt racing, but getting absolutely spanked on the flat. We'll see if that changes this weekend at Epsom. Aidan O'Brien's got a lot of firepower. Dermot Weld, some interesting horses as well. But the Tattersalls Irish 2000 guineas was a domination for the Hannon stable. Richard Hannon Sr. won the race 3 times. His son, Richard Hannon Jr., Richard Hannon, has now got his first Irish Classic as well, but a 4th win in the race for the stable. It was a thrilling renewal of the race. Haatem ran an absolute blinder under a great ride from Jamie Spencer, but Sean Levy had just that little bit too much up his sleeve, Lucy.
Yeah, it was superb, wasn't it? Superb training performance by Richard Hannon, obviously, to have the 1-2 in the guineas. And yeah, I think Rosallion to only win by a head was staggering, really. He was gaining with every stride, obviously. Great that the English guineas form has worked out really well, and yeah, I think Richard Hannon can be super proud of both his horses, and it looks as though St James's Palace will be the target next for Rosallion, and I think he mentioned Haatem probably be stepping up in trip in a not too distant future, so he's got 2 great horses in his stable. We knew that going into the race, and yeah, I think River Tiber didn't quite stay the trip, the 1 mile. I mean, obviously it's open to opinions, but he was sandwiched in between the pair of them as well. So, yeah, it was a great race.
Yeah, it's interesting with River Tiber because he's entered in the July Cup, he's entered in the St James's Palace Stakes, but he's also in the Commonwealth Cup. So the fact that he's in 2 Group 1 sprints is leading you to think they see him as more of a sprinter. And Aidan O'Brien was kind of talking about that in the lead-up. He was absolutely emphasising all 3 of his horses would need the run. They'd all come on for it. He was saying the same thing about Opera Singer, who we'll come to in a few minutes. But this is a race that he's dominated. He's won it 12 times, except in the last 10 years, he hasn't really dominated. He's won it 3 times. He did obviously take it with Paddington last year, but you have to go back to 2017 for Churchill and 2015 with Glen Eagles. And he's won more guineas than any trainer in the history of the sport. But for some reason, George, his 3-year-old colts just really seem to need the run. The only one that didn't was Los Angeles, who the more I look at him for Epsom, the more I'm like, let's go. Why did I not take the 20s? Why didn't I take the 10s with Geoff Banks? What a fool. But I'm getting very excited about him. But what did you make of River Tiber's comeback, and what do you think his trip is going to be for the rest of the season?
I've sort of seen a trend personally. I thought the last couple of seasons that O'Brien's, certainly his 3-year-olds, and this season even more so some of his 2-year-olds do seem to need the run. Like he's sort of gearing his horses up more to last the season rather than go and blitz away first time. I'd be inclined, given that, and given how some of his others have run on their first start this season, I'd be inclined to give him another go at a mile. I just think he was in the process of sort of staying on when he's just blown up. Like, you know, not completely blown up. He's had a bit of a blow. Maybe he's not quite hit the line, but bear that in mind, he's got 2 very good, 2 classic placed horses in front of him. Like, I'd certainly give him another go, but the winner was fantastic. Like, you look, he's come from the furthest back of the front 5 in not particularly. It wasn't run at a breakneck gallop, was it? And he's been wound up a long way to have one run at them, and he really got there quite easily in the end. I think it's a really nice horse. And come the 2000 Guineas rematch, I'd give him a chance. It'd be hard to pick either way between him and the winner that day, but I'd give him a chance of going closer. As with Haatem, I think he's going up in trip to avoid these other horses that we know he can't beat. I think he's a miler. Whether they can stretch him or not, I don't know, but I think this is his trip, and he's quite rightly he's going to have a go at another trip because he doesn't want to keep banging into these horses again and again, because God knows he deserves a big one. But bar that, I think those are certainly the three take out of the race. I wouldn't be too fussed about any of the others now. I think that that would sort of sum it up for me.
I think there's an ideal race for Haatem, and I think there might be a bit of a mistake here from the team at Geoff Banks Bet, because they're going 33-1 about Haatem for the Coral Eclipse. And I think that's ideal for him. That's the perfect race for him. You want to go up and trip, 10 furlongs will suit him. It's a Group 1 race. He's classic placed twice. He's gone super close to winning the 2000 Guineas in Ireland. If they had stuck to the original plan, which was take Rosallion to the St. James's Palace Stakes and try and beat Notable Speech going round a bend, he's a classic winner. He's got the Irish 2000 Guineas in the bag. He won't have to face him again because Rosalind's not going up and trip. And if the Hannon team are adamant that he needs to go up in distance, then the Eclipse is the most obvious race, and that 33-1 seems very generous.
That would be the wrong price for him if he showed up, but I'd like to see him try the trip somewhere a bit flatter first, because that's a stiff mile too. I've actually ridden over that course and distance, funny enough, in a much worse race, and it even shocked me, like riding on the flat there. Like it's a very, very stiff finish. Like for flat horses on the jumpers, you feel like they should get up that hill. It took me aback a bit when you're suddenly riding a 15-2 flat horse and they're trying to plug on up that hill. It's very hard work.
The St. James's Palace Stakes is shaping up to be an absolute blinder. We're going to have the Guineas winner, Notable Speech, Rosallion, the Irish Guineas winner, and a really talented juvenile who disappointed in the French 2000 Guineas, but again, Aidan O'Brien was shining that big neon light saying he desperately needs this run and he'll come on for it. In Henry Longfellow, 5-1 Henry Longfellow, 5-2 Rosallion, 6-4 Notable Speech. If it's between those three, who are you siding with, Lucy?
I think it'd be hard to look past Notable Speech. I mean, what he did in the 2000 Guineas in this country was unbelievable. To go 3 from 3 on the all weather and win a Group 1 like that on his first run on turf, I think was staggering. I still think he's a staggering horse. And if he were to win on the round course at Ascot as well, that could, only enhance his profile, which is already pretty good. Just
like to give a personal shout out to my boy Rebels Romance, who we put up on this show with Louis Stewart he went off 28-1. I thought he was a great price at 12s, so it goes to show you what I know. And obviously he's torn the field apart that day with Auguste Rodin falling out the back of the telly and behind, but he's gone to Sha-Tin and won a Group 1 for Charlie Appleby there. It's his first Group 1 in Hong Kong. It was a tremendous performance, and I don't think they're bringing him to Europe. I think he's going back to America. That's where he's been stabled, and they're going to target all the big grade ones over there. I don't see anything to stop him in North America. He'll continue to conquer there, but well done, Charlie Appleby, because that's brilliant placing, and I love that horse. He's a gelding, absolutely flying it at the top level. The 6-year-old, it's lovely to see him doing so well. They are still a bit quiet, Charlie Appleby. Rebels Romance ran on the 26th of May. He's only had 3 runners since then, so I don't quite know what's going on there, but Notable Speech certainly sets the standard. I have a sneaky feeling, George, he's going to get beaten, and I think the one who's going to beat him is Henry Longfellow. I think these Aidan O'Brien horses are going to come good, and I think he's one of them who will be really thriving. What's your thoughts on, if it is between those three, Notable Speech, Rosallion, and Henry Longfellow? I think the 5-1 is very fair about him, but who do you think is the most likely winner?
I'd have a crack at Rosallion, to be honest. You think he's gone there first time out. Fair enough. He's been Notable Speech was very, very good, but he was fit off the all weather, regardless of whether it was his first start on turf or not. He went there fit off the all weather, and Rosallion was first run of the season. So I'd take a little crack at it, especially the way that he won at the weekend. That's a sort of running style that can be very suited to Ascot. Because you sort of, if you find you have to settle in and come with a challenge wide, it helps to have a turn of foot like that. And I think at the likely prices, I'd probably just take a little swing on him.
I like it. It's good to see the Guineas form working out too, because it didn't work out last year. Like Auguste Rodin and Little Big Bear came out from falling out the back of the telly to win group races afterwards. Little Big Bear won once at Haydock in the Sandy Lane. Auguste Rodin went on to become the dominant 3-year-old in Europe last year, aside from bombing out in the King George. Nothing else emerged from it. Chaldean didn't do anything. High Royal didn't do anything. But already the Guineas form is working out quite well. So that's good to see. Just very briefly with you, Lucy, on River Tiber. From a commercial perspective, they're going to want to try him again over a mile because winning a Group 1 over a mile is seen as more valuable than winning a Group 1 over sprint distances. And I'm with you. I think he didn't quite stay. Is your opinion that he will drop back to sprinting?
Yeah, it's interesting because his entries, he's got the Commonwealth Cup, obviously, but then he's got the Eclipse. So it's almost like they've got all their options covered.
Typical Ballydoyle, just carpet bombing entries.
Yeah, why not? I don't think he quite stayed. I mean, it was his first run of the season and over a mile. It's quite a leap up from what he achieved last year. Obviously, winning the Coventry was superb over 6, but it's quite a leap up from 6 to 1 mile, especially on his first start. His head carriage is quite high as well. I don't know, he was sandwiched in between the Richard Hannon pair as well. So I think tactically the Hannon team obviously did better. And yeah, I would like to see River Tiber drop back into it.
Yeah, I think he will be. And I think Commonwealth Cup will be his next port of call. But we'll see. As I said, they do like to get a Group 1 win over a mile if they can. They did that with US Navy Flag. He ran a big race in the Irish 2000 Guineas, having disappointed in Newmarket, ran him in the St. James's Palace Stakes. I think you and I were there, Lucy, for that particular race, and it didn't go to plan. But then he came back out and won the July Cup. So we'll see what they choose to do with him. That was one of 3 winners on the day at the Curragh for Britain. The domination would continue into Sunday as Carl Burke's Fallen Angel was heavily backed against Opera Singer, who was really weak in the betting. She went off the 11-4 favourite and completely brushed aside her disappointing performance in the 1,000 Guineas at Newmarket. She probably was drawn on the wrong side that day and performed better than she was given real credit for, but this was good, Lucy.
Yeah, super, so impressive. I mean, the race was run quite slowly, slow start, as was the 2,000 Guineas as well, really, but she was the last off the bridle, and the way she quickened up was so impressive. I think she appreciated the ground a bit better. I think it was a bit softer, wasn't it, on the Sunday, because they had a bit of rain. But yeah, she was a bit disappointing in the Newmarket Guineas. I don't think she particularly liked the dip on the Rolling Mile. She won on the July course last year, but her run in this year's 1,000 Guineas at Newmarket wasn't that great. But yeah, I mean, how could you not be impressed with what she did at the weekend?
It was a really smart performance. She's going to go for the French Oaks next, George.
No, I would say I'm as impressed there as Lucy. Maybe slightly softer ground helped a bit. Which would be probably suit her for going to France, hopefully. You imagine it's usually soft out there. There's a couple in behind that I did like. I'm sure we'll get on to Opera Singer in a minute. But Purple Lily sort of got forgotten a little bit with how Buttons has flown home. Purple Lily's sort of taken a while to get rolling, and then Shaped Like a Horse is really going to enjoy a step up in trip. And sort of at the other end of the spectrum, you had Azardo, who was in the middle of running a real race and then just got very tired late on. And for a second run ever and first run of the season, I thought that was a massive run from Dermot Wales horse. I look forward to seeing that towards the back end of the season. Certainly as the weather starts to turn, some of these fillies really turn around. But those are 2 towards, that people might not have looked at. I'd certainly be looking forward to, particularly in Purple Lily's case up in trip. Buttons, I'm not sure what you do with, because it's just look maybe like it wants further, but it's just too keen. So that might be one for right the back end of the season when she starts to learn what life's about a bit. But I'm sure you're dying to talk about Opera Singer, Emmet, so I'll leave you to that one.
Yeah, I am, but I think it's interesting you mentioned Buttons in the way that you do, because I backed her for the race, and initially I thought she was quite unlucky with the way the race panned out, but actually I just wonder if this is her running style, and that she's going to need an awful lot to work out for her, that she needs to just come with a late run to really get there towards the end of the race. She was an odds-on favourite when she won on her debut in June. She's clearly been a tricky horse to train because she didn't run again as a 2-year-old. She started out this campaign in a Group 3. She's kind of well held that day, beaten 3 lengths. She's then narrowly beaten as a 6-5 favourite in a Group 3 at Leopardstown. They've pitched her into the 1,000 Guineas, and she's come with another thundering late run. I just wonder if she needs a lot to be in her favour. Maybe drop her back to Group 2 company and try and pick up a nice a nice Group 2 over 7 furlongs or a mile somewhere. I'm not entirely certain that she's crying out to go up in distance, but she needs a fast pace to be seen to best effect, and maybe a drop in class would help. But she's a good filly. Like, there's a race in her. There's a big race in her. I just wonder if you want to try and get a win into her now to try and boost her confidence. But
I think if she had a bit more speed than she did, Wayne Lorden probably would have looked for cover. Like, there wasn't a whole lot available for him. I'll say that for him. But I was like you. I watched it live and went, God, stuck out wide the whole way, too keen. Jockeys like that, they'll find cover if they really want it. And I think she's just one of these that's probably too keen, but definitely needs further. Because if he thought she had bags of speed to come through the middle of them, he would have covered her up and just tried to ride her for luck. The fact that he sat out wide says to me she can only go one run, and he can't afford to be switching her in and out. Like, I think she's probably dripping in stamina, but unfortunately she's also a bit temperamental, which like I say, by the end of the season might be a completely different horse. He's very young horses, in particular the fillies. Like, she could well settle better as the season goes on, or like you said, just get a really strong pace to run at.
She's also an Aidan O'Brien filly. He has some ability to improve these horses as the season goes on. So she could very well end up being Group 1 class. She already is Group 1 class. She's just finished 4th in a 1,000 guineas, but she might actually be capable of winning one. I wouldn't give up on her. With regards to Opera Singer, so Aidan O'Brien, again, whatever it is about these horses having their first run of the season, like, she'd had a setback a few weeks ago. So she'd missed the Newmarket Guineas, I should say, the 1,000 guineas, the original, and still the best. So this was her target, but he was really emphasizing, look, she's clearly going to need the run. She will improve for it. Whatever she does today, she'll be better the next day. She's drifted alarmingly in the betting. But the thing that worried me about her when I was talking to Aidan last year on this show was Battle of Liege, Border Town, 3 and 4 pence, Brave Anna, Hit It a Bomb. All siblings of Opera Singer, all of them failed to train on. 4 of them in particular, well, let's highlight 3 and 4 pence, Brave Anna and Hit It a Bomb. Like, those 3 in particular were really good 2-year-olds. Hit It a Bomb won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Brave Anna was a proper group performer, a Royal Ascot winning filly. And I was saying this to Aidan, like, are you concerned about her ability to train on? And he immediately corrected me and said, they're by Warfront, she's by Justify. Now, he wasn't having a go at Warfront because Aidan O'Brien doesn't have a go at any of his horses. But he was just saying, there's no doubt in my mind she'll train on. And there's no doubt in my mind either. I think she's shown an awful lot there. And with Fallen Angel heading to France, I think she'll win the coronation. Lucy, what's your take on Opera Singer's comeback?
Yeah, good. I'm more taken with her than Buttons. You guys are singing Buttons' praises there, but I think Opera's...
For full clarification, I'm completely with you on that. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
I thought it was an interesting point. I thought it was interesting to talk about, but I definitely have Opera Singer over Buttons.
Yeah. Obviously Ryan Moore chose her as well. She's such a big filly, isn't she? Opera Singer, huge. Like, covers so much ground in such a short space of time because she's got such a long stride. I think great run on her comeback, finished 3rd in the Group 1 1,000 guineas. Obviously, she was superb last year. I don't see any doubt that she will train on. I think maybe a step up and trip because she's got such a long stride. She's got so much scope. So I think maybe a step up and trip would be beneficial to her.
Possibly. I wouldn't disagree with you about that. I do think that it'll be the Coronation Stakes next, though, at Royal Ascot, for which... Are we putting this on screen? I'm sure we are, but if we're not, there you go. 7-2 with Geoff Banks Bet. Like, Fallen Angel's not going to be there. She's off to France. So who does she have to worry about? El Malka, yeah, very good winner at Newmarket, but it's a bunch finish. I don't know if I trust that for him too much. And Aidan O'Brien at Royal Ascot. Like, he rarely misses there. And there have been Royal Ascots where he's done a Willie Mullins at Cheltenham. He has just dominated Royal Ascot in the past. They're going to want her to win. Daughter of Justify, prove that Justifies do really well. They're winning Derby trials for him, but all eyes are on that stallion this season, and I think she's going to be a massive player. I think she'll be massively revved up for the coronation, and she'll win it. That 7-2 seems very, very fair to me.
I've always described Justifies when we've had them turn up to Gary's. I've always said to Jamie and Josh, said, They're always the horses that you look at and think, God, I'd love to go jumping with that, but you know they're a little too nice to go jumping with. That's how I'd always describe them, which is, I think they're proper middle distance, hardy horses. And similarly, what you were saying about Warfront, I've seen a 16-3 mare throw a 14-3 Warfront filly. Like they're a bit, what you're like, sort of speedy and ready sometimes. I totally see the point. Aidan's point, making the distinction of the siblings being by Warfront and her being by Justify. I probably would be with her come Ascot.
Warfront is still a stallion, but Coolmore have completely abandoned the project. That they have just abandoned him entirely, and they were pumping a lot into Warfront. They were standing stallion sons of Warfront. They were trying to get Group 1 winners by him. They sent some of their best mares to him. Those mares are now going to Justify, the ones that are eligible at least. And like, he could get you a really good Group 1 2-year-old like an Air Force Blue, but he wasn't getting you the proper elite Group 1 3-year-olds. Lilac Rolla, we didn't really mention her. She was unbeaten going into the race. She's run an absolute blinder for the Toomey team, and there's definitely going to be a Group 1 in her at some point, Lucy.
Connections will be pleased that she finished second, albeit beaten, 2 and a bit lengths by Fallen Angel. It's a shame that she's lost her unbeaten record, but I think to finish behind Fallen Angel is not a bad run in defeat whatsoever. So I think there's plenty of targets for her, and she certainly won't be without a win next to her name again, I don't think.
Tattersalls Gold Cup at the Curragh was the big Group 1 in the build-up to the Irish 1000 Guineas. It was the comeback of Auguste Rodin. He had been so disappointing in Meydan, but Aidan O'Brien's horses in Dubai aren't really going to be peaked in the way that they would be at the Breeders' Cup. So I was prepared to skip over that pretty quickly and was very excited about his comeback. And he's finished 8 lengths clear of Crypto Force. Some really good run from Auguste Rodin. Clearly the ability is all still there. Clearly he's still a very talented horse. There's just one problem. The Murphy team decided not to go to the Coronation Cup and actually go for the Tattersalls Gold Cup instead, and White Birch has absolutely butchered him with a stunning display. So how good is White Birch, George Gorman, and how excited are you for him for the rest of the season? And for Auguste Rodin, what do you make of him now?
Yeah, with Auguste Rodin, pretty similar to what you said. I'd almost see this as his first run of the season, with a pinch of salt. I wouldn't take much bearing on that as to how White Birch has run. Like, Auguste Rodin will be there when it matters, when the big targets are coming out. But you've still got to look at it. White Birch is beating Crypto Force 11 lengths. It's an absolute demolition job if Auguste Rodin isn't there, and he's done it in about as smooth a style as you could ask. He's obviously incredibly talented. We talk about training on, I think probably improved from 3 to 4. And he's going to be a force to be reckoned with wherever he goes. Huge run from Crypto Force as well. Absolutely flat out the whole way, and has stayed on like a steam train up the straight. Either up in trip or slightly lower grade, there's one in Crypto Force for sure. I just like a horse that sticks to it like that, particularly flat horses. Quite a lot of them don't like to be under pressure for that length of time, and he's really, really stuck with it. That's one of those horses that'll probably be in my sort of sentimental book for the rest of the season now, because I like a horse that toughs it out like that. But there's not much you can really say about White Birch. Just he's to be feared wherever he goes now, isn't he?
He's an intriguing horse, Lucy, in that he was no match for Auguste Rodin in the Derby. He didn't really get to run his race in the Irish Derby. I think Auguste Rodin was going to win the race anyway, but given what happened with Wayne Lorden and poor old San Antonio, that you can't really take White Birch's run that day literally. And then he just bombed out on Irish Champions Weekend. He's beaten a length and a half, but he's a better horse than Adelaide River, so for whatever reason, he just didn't perform. But back as a 4-year-old, you'd have been forgiven for just kind of forgetting about him. It's been like, oh yeah, that horse is back. That horse that people thought could win the Derby and wasn't good enough. And he stepped forward with every single run, wins a Group 3 first time up, bolts up in a Group 2, and then was backed as though defeat was out of the question in the Group 1 Tattersalls Gold Cup. The money proved to be very well founded against Auguste Rodin, because he's left him for dead.
Yeah, great performance from the horse. 3 from 3 this season as well, which is great. I think the ground has really played into his strengths, because all his 3 victories this year have been over 1 mile 2 on rain softened ground. He won the Bally Sacks last year as well on rain softened ground. Again, 1 mile 2. I think the race just played to his strengths massively. I think Auguste Rodin is just such a great moving horse, true champion. I think 1.5 miles on quick ground is where he's seen to best effect. So I think, yeah, but take nothing away from the race. I think White Birch was superb.
He is an enigma now, though, Auguste Rodin, because you're trying to figure out, well, what is this horse? What does he need? What are the conditions he needs to be seen to his absolute optimum? And you'd have been forgiven for thinking, he just needs a very quick round. But he got quick round in Dubai and wasn't sighted behind Rebel's Romance. He never got a blow in that day. He was brilliant on firm ground in the Breeders' Cup turf. The Golden Highway opened for him, but hey, I'm not complaining. We put up the TriCast on the Final Furlong podcast with Tim Carroll on that show, so I was delighted with that. And I didn't think there was a fluke about it. I thought he was just the best horse in the race and was ridden brilliantly. Was the decision to bring him back in training as a 4-year-old a rare misstep from Coolmore?
I'd just say, I think there are probably two factors at play with the Auguste Rodin and White Birch sort of form turnaround. Should be mentioned, White Birch is 0 from 3 over 1.5 miles. Twice of those behind Auguste Rodin. He's only been beat twice at less than 1.5 miles. One was on racecourse debut on heavy ground. Then once was at York. We got beaten neck by the Foxes. Other than that, all of his wins have come basically come at mile 2, by 1 over 7 furlongs on his second start, his maiden. And the other one is that Auguste Rodin, like I said, it's had the one run over in Dubai, but it's essentially coming here to start this season. That's the way I see it. And I think if they run into each other later in the season on quickish ground over 1.5 miles, Auguste Rodin has a very good chance of turning it around. I just think with White Birch, they found their trick now. I think he probably prefers 1.2 miles on soft or yielding to 1.4 miles on quick ground. You know what I mean? I just think that might be, when you're talking horses of this quality, that's what makes the difference.
Aidan O'Brien was saying on Racing TV afterwards that he was delighted with the run, was only seeing positives in it, and that the run was something you could build on to go forward. Privately, they're probably disappointed they've been beaten. That's a race they've dominated in recent years. It's a pretty simple Group 1 to get on the CV. It just happens that the Murphy team have decided, no, we're not going to go to Epsom, we're going to go to the Curragh, and it's worked out a treat for them. If he's not there, everyone's raving about Auguste Rodin. Auguste Rodin's back. He's back to his brilliant best, and he'd be even money for the Prince of Wales. Geoff Banks Bet goes 7-1 for Royal Ascot, and I don't know if he should be that big a price, because that is the race he's going to go for. Again, Aidan O'Brien at Royal Ascot, he dominates that meeting, and I just wonder if, for all that White Birch was visually very, very impressive, and he's a very exciting horse for his connections, he'd had 2 runs. He'd had plenty of prep runs. He's hard fit. Auguste Rodin wasn't. And he'd really bombed out in Dubai, and maybe they just had to go lighter on him in their work. I think he'll be cherry ripe for Ascot, and I'd be very confident he'll win the Prince of Wales. Now, note of caution. Lucy Russell Hughes will remember how incredibly bullish I was that Luxembourg was going to win the Prince of Wales Stakes last year, and then along comes Mostadaf and absolutely blew him to smithereens. I'm very much keeping the faith with Auguste Rodin, and I do think you're going to see him back in the winners' enclosure in Group 1 company at Royal Ascot. I do, though, now start to wonder, Lucy, if this plan about him going for the dirt and going for the Breeders' Cup Classic, is that still something they're going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be overly in favour of that now, because I think he does need quick ground, and if it was to come up soft at Ascot, Royal Ascot, maybe that price does look realistic, really. Yes, I mean, look what happened to him in the King George last year. I think the ground was pretty soft then. And you mentioned there, was it a wise decision to bring him back into training as a 4-year-old? Let's hope it is. Let's hope he gets the win at some point this year, because then it will, justify their reasons for bringing him back in training. Because, I mean, he's still a dual Derby winner, Breeders' Cup winner. Group 1 races last year that he managed to achieve was unbelievable. So he's still an outstanding horse, but I'm not overly convinced about him now. Going forwards, but yeah, I think he needs quicker ground, and Royal Ascot doubtful, and dirt is a bit doubtful now.
Well, he is going to be a stallion. There's no question about that. He's a Group 1 winner at 2. He's a dual Derby winner, so he's a dual Classic winner. He's a Breeders' Cup Turf hero. He's won the Irish Champion Stakes over 10 furlongs. But how appealing is he to breeders now? I think Saxon Warrior covered in excess of 260 mares last year, and his progeny are very much in demand at the sales. So if Saxon Warrior, depending on what Auguste Rodin's stallion price is going to be, if he's that popular at stud, then you can only imagine how popular Auguste Rodin is going to be. But how many breeders are looking at Auguste Rodin and going, I don't know who you are. Why did you blow out in the Guineas? Why did you blow out in the King George? Why did you blow out in Dubai? And why did you have no answer for White Birch, when a horse that you beat comfortably when you met him twice last year? Why is he just blazed right past you and you've got no response? Like, who is Auguste Rodin now? I think he really needs to get a Group 1 win on the CV next time out. I wonder, is that massive tens of millions of pounds offer from the Japanese, is that still on the table, or is it greatly reduced now?
I still think he's a champion. I still really do think he's a true champion. Dual Derby winner, 4 Group 1s last year, Champion Stakes you just threw in there as well, Emmet. It's like you just throw it in. It's still, he's still a massively impressive horse. The breeding as well, by Deep Impact out of Rhododendron is special. I think he's still very special. I think he's a true champion. I think he's special, but I just wonder where his next Group 1 victory is going to come. Well, in what race? Because I really don't know now.
I think it's going to come in the Prince of Wales, because the way I was thinking of this at the start of the season was this is a very clever plan from Coolmore, because they're going to run him in the Tattersalls Gold Cup. They're going to run him in the Prince of Wales Stakes. What do those 2 races have in common? They're not open to 3-year-olds. So you're not going to have to worry about taking on Stable Companion City of Troy or any of the other exciting 3-year-olds that are coming through and giving them weight. And then he was going on the dirt. And that plan has just kind of derailed a little bit, because Dubai was so bad. Tattersalls Gold Cup hasn't gone to plan. So, and now the Prince of Wales is actually shaping up to be a really good race. Possible White Birch goes there. Passenger definitely goes there. Inspiral probably goes there. It's not going to be quite as easy as it looked on paper initially. And then again, that idea about going on the dirt, like, is that even appealing to you now, George?
The dirt isn't particularly appealing to me, no, but I do think he'll get back on track at Royal Ascot, as long as it's no worse than probably good soft good in places, or good soft in places. As long as it's no worse than that, I think he'll turn it around with White Birch at Royal Ascot. I really do. They said I just treat it as a seasonal debut. Don't panic, in Aidan we trust.
Does that mean, George, that as I've been talking, the reason you were typing is that you went on to geoffbanks.bet and went, I'll have max bet Auguste Rodin 7-1 Prince of Wales, please. Gamble responsibly.
I'll be there. I'll leave it to the day. People go off him. I'll leave it till the day.
There's no way he's 7-1 on the day. There's no world he's a 7-1 shot. And if he is,
I just come back from a holiday, Emmet. So max bet's about 40p at the minute.
Oh, what a great economy we're
Maybe
living
give
in.
it a week or so.
Big result for Cheveley Park Stud with Ulysses. He's got Passenger, which obviously looks like he's going to be Group 1 class this season. He looked Group 1 class last year, but he really looks like he'll fulfill that now. He has to do it. And this fella is a Group 1 winner by Ulysses. So, yeah, he's not going to get you a precocious 2-year-old, but he will get you a very, very good horse, and he's an exciting one. This episode of the Final Furlong Podcast is only possible with your support, listening and watching, and with the support of our sponsors. So give me 60 seconds to tell you about Geoff Banks Bet. Betting on horse racing used to be very simple. It was us, the punter, versus them, the bookmakers, the old enemy. But today, betting with online bookmakers is zero fun. Online betting companies promise you the world, but if you have the nerve and the audacity to place a winning bet, they will make you jump through endless hoops just to access your cash. It is not fair and it's not fun. And betting is supposed to be fun. Geoff Banks is different. He's one of the most recognizable faces in British racing. He's got pitches at racecourses all across the United Kingdom. He is a true horse racing fan. And while Geoff very much promotes responsible betting, he is standing up and fighting back against these insane affordability checks. Affordability checks that will destroy the levy and kill British racing. Sign up to geoffbanks.bet right now. Use our promo code FFP500, and not only will you get access to a bookmaker who who values your custom, who is a racing fan, but he'll give you best odds guaranteed on British and Irish racing, and he'll give you 10% cash back on net losses after your first month, up to £500. Gamble responsibly, 18 plus only, begambleaware.org. It's tradition refined with modern tech and unbeatable odds. Use our promo code FFP500 and place your bets now with Geoff Banks Bet. We'll switch to the sprinters, shall we? It was the return of Van Dijk, another highly exciting European 2-year-old who was very high in the rankings. That worked out brilliantly for City of Troy and Henry Longfellow on their comebacks, and it's worked out brilliantly for Van Dijk as well. Oh dear. There is a note of caution here, Lucy Russell Hughes, as I'll come to you first of all. He's beaten 4 lengths as an odds-on favourite on his seasonal comeback in the Sandy Lane Stakes by a very impressive winner. We will obviously talk about him, but Van Dijk is such an exciting horse, I think we need to talk about him first of all. If City of Troy had run this race in the 2000 Guineas, that's what I'd be saying to you. Oh no, he has not trained on. Because a horse who was so superior to everything as a 2-year-old is suddenly getting beaten by Haatem. And that form is being turned around. That would make me worried about him. The fact that he finished out the back of the telly means couldn't possibly be his true running. You can't say he hasn't trained on yet. We'll see. This would worry me, except for the fact that the stable form is just bang average, Lucy. Some of these Crisford horses are not hitting the line. Chesspiece was well fancied at Sandown the other night. Was awful. And this fella didn't quite see out the run to the line either. Do you think it's more to do with the stable and his seasonal debut? Are you willing to forgive this, or are you worried?
I think there was excuses for Van Dijk's run, actually. I think he if you watch the race again, he sort of dwelt out the stalls. He wasn't that quickly away. It's such a shame he's lost his unbeaten record. What a superb horse on the track last year. They finished tired horses as well in that race. It was soft ground. They were strung out. The winner was good. The winner had a race previous in the Guineas. So I do think there are a few excuses for Van Dijk, unfortunately. Nobody likes to see a stable star beaten like that, and he was a superstar last year.
There was a quote from Tom Eaves after the race, George, that was the kind of quote you would have loved to have read in the Racing Post before the race. That Kevin Ryan said to him at Newmarket, "We'll drop him back to 6 furlongs and he'll win next time out." It's like, why didn't we know that? Not saying that I would have backed him, by the way, but if you did, well done. He was a very easy winner. He has to be supplemented for the Commonwealth Cup, but that just seems like a absolute certainty because he has to be a big player for the race now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, very, very impressed by him, the winner. Like, he's on different planets. The others in the end, which if you take the favourite out, he's quite entitled to be. I think this very similarly to Lucy. I think you can forgive Van Dijk that. I thought he was starting to stick on, and he's just got tired late on. Whether that's something to do with either, I'd say, a bug in the stable, or the horses are taking longer to get fit, or they're getting to the racecourse not quite fit. He is plugging on just before he sort of takes a blow there. I wouldn't be worried about that performance at all. It's upsetting when he's got an unbeaten record and when he's the price he is, but these things happen with horses. So it might not even be anything necessarily to do with the stable at large. It might just be the horse. There might be nothing that can go with him at home to get him fit. You know what I mean, though? He might be just working all over horses every day, and they haven't got anything good enough to get him fit. I know that I'm not disparaging Christmas horses, but this is a proper superstar of a horse, and he's a sprinter. It's quite hard to find horses to work with, horses like that. And I just, I certainly, if he comes up a decent price next time out, as a result of that, I'd be willing to take advantage of it.
Well, the market reaction was to just push him out. He went from being 9-4 or 5-2 with William Hill. They shoved him out to 6-1. That's now settled back in. Geoff Banks goes 5-1, and he is co-favourite. It's joint favourite Van Dijk and Inisherin at the top of the betting. Interestingly, they go 6-1 River Tiber if he is to take up this engagement and drop back. Elite Status is 7-1 shot. Ramatue 8. Bucero Forte, who's come back with a win, beating a race fit rival in the process, and Gimme the Beat Boys. He's an 8-1 shot, and we've seen Big Ev's back as well, a 10-1 shot. Now he's going to go for the King Charles? What are they calling that race this year? They've changed it from Kingstown to the King Charles Stakes or something along those lines. But he's going to go for the 5 furlong sprint as opposed to stretch out to 6. I mean, I got to be honest, that's a big price about Van Dijk. He was a superstar 2-year-old. I think given the concerns about the stable form, as long as they turn things around, you've got 23 days to do so. If the horses start going into the winner's enclosure again, I think I'd probably side with Van Dijk. For all that Inisherin was a good winner, I would keep the faith with the Crisford horse. Have I lost my mind, Lucy?
For the Commonwealth Cup, I'd be with River Tiber. But yeah, it's just, again, if Van Dijk, if it comes up soft, I'm not sure he wants it too soft. I think he won one of his races last year by quite a short margin on soft ground. So I wonder whether that just does not play to his strengths. I think Inisherin has been supplemented. I think I saw that somewhere this morning. So that definitely makes it interesting. I'd be more in favour of River Tiber back to a track we know liked Coventry winner last year over the course and distance.
It was when he beat Ramatuelle in the Group 1 in Deauville. That was a short neck, according to the French, when he won that race. And she's obviously come out and run very well this season and probably should have won the 1,000 guineas had her cheese-eating surrender monkey jockey actually got to not gone so fast out in front as much as he did and held on to her that little bit longer. The Betfred Temple Stakes went to Kerdos for Clive Cox and Richard Kingscote. It was a bit of a surprise. Beats the Nunthorpe winner, Live in the Dream. He was beaten in this race a year ago, comes out afterwards later in the season and wins the Nunthorpe. Clearly he's retained all of his speed and he's a real joy to watch. How do you sort out, though, from this race? This just is further muddying the waters for the King Charles, the whatever it's called, at Royal Ascot. Like, the 5 furlong sprint division is messy, Lucy. Very, very messy.
Yeah, it's quite weak as well, unfortunately. I think obviously we lost Highfield Princess last year, so sad. Oh, sorry, this year, so sad. So I really do think Kerdos and Live in the Dream were the two horses to take from that race, which is strange, really, because Live in the Dream obviously burst onto the scene last year, and Kerdos, people might be scratching their heads as to why on earth he won that race. He's going to go for the King Charles, like you say, Emmet, Kerdos, and yeah, probably Live in the Dream as well. I mean, he's by Profitable Kerdos. Profitable had a very, very similar campaign to this horse. I think he won the Temple and then won the King's Stand. Got better as he got older, quite similar to Kerdos. So I think there's plenty in Kerdos's favour with the family connections and the pedigree. And I think he's trained on. And I think those two horses were the horses to take from that race.
George, if you had advised Watan Racing to spend £1 million on Rogue Lightning, would you be keeping the faith with that purchase or scrambling around desperately to find the receipt for a refund?
Yeah, certainly for £1 million, I think I'd be looking for a refund, yeah.
For a gelding?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's $500,000 a festival, isn't it? I think from the last time out, the only horse from that race at Newmarket seems to have held its form is Beautiful Diamond, isn't it? Everything else is sort of either improved or disimproved around it. But it's worth bearing in mind, like, especially 5 furlong sprinters, like, it's not unusual for people to train them sort of on the race course, is it? Especially if you've got a sort of maybe a more fragile sprinter, you're not really wanting to work them at home because they're just going so quick. So you sort of, it used to be back in the day, especially the handicappers, they'd take 4 or 5 runs to get fit, and then once they're fit, they go. Because this horse has taken 3 runs to get fit, it seems like he's improved massively. But I'd say that's just the way that Clive Cox has decided to prepare him. It's not unusual for a sort of 4 or even a 5-year-old Clive Cox sprinter to suddenly improve out of all recognition, is it? And I'd be inclined to believe this run. Like, Live the Dream, I thought, ran right up to its best that day. Obviously, that they'll have a return bid to America on their minds, and the season will be sort of based around that. But just because they're all chopping and changing positions, I wouldn't worry too much about the fact that that Newmarket form seems to have gone in the bin, because you've got sort of 2 or 3 horses who have improved through the field, and where 2 or 3 of them look to have gone down, it's just a matter of some horses are hard fit at first run of the season, some aren't. And some, like Beautiful Diamond, are bang in the middle. But I think I'm certainly a believer in Kerdos. And where's he going next, did they say?
I think he is going to go to Ascot. I think they have to now.
Yeah, I believe in that form. Whether he's going to be a big price on the day, but I think you have a chance.
I just wonder if the 5 furlong sprint division in Britain and indeed in Ireland is a little bit like the 5 furlong sprint division for handicappers at Chelmsford and Kempton and Lingfield. All due respect to those courses, they're all great tracks, but they're just beaten. There's nothing between them. There's no standout star. Living the Dream is £5 off his RPR from the Nunthorpe, and that's probably what splits these horses. There's any one of them can improve enough on the day to run a career best and excel at Ascot, but they can also just put in an off day, and it's trying to work out which of these horses. It swings and roundabouts. They're just going to continue to beat one another. There doesn't seem to be a really dominant standout horse who's going to grab the division by the scruff of the neck and take control of it and be the dominant sprinter. It's just, it's your turn to win, and then it's your turn, and that's great for someone like Aidan O'Hara, who's backing horses at massive prices and put up Living the Dream in the Nunthorpe last year. By the way, so did we on TalkSport, but we don't want to give ourselves too much of a pat on the back. But it's great for him that you don't have a standout star in the division. But for us, it's that little bit more of a puzzle, and there's nothing that really stands out to me. Like Big Evs is 7-2. What did he achieve on comeback? Just proved he's alive, basically. He was good enough to win that race. He was massively clear of everything. He was massively clear on everything in racing, so he really should win. So he's alive, he's breathing, that's great. The Australian, how is the Australian mare 7-1 for this race, Geoff Banks? Jesus, she showed nothing at the weekend. No. Bacuna Forte, 15-2 shot, regional 8-1, Rogue Lightning 10-1. Does anybody appealed? Anybody interested in taking 10-1 about the £1 million purchase who was well beaten at the weekend? Going once, going twice? No one wants to take that 10s. Aesop's Fables is 16s. Like, he's run some big races. He ran a big race in the Breeders' Cup, ran a big race in the Abbey, but it's not a horse you'd hang your hat on. He was good the other day, but he should have won that race. Like, it's just, there's no standout star here. This is a race that you can swing for something at a big price and then hope that they're ready to go on the day and they perform. There's nothing that stands out.
I do think Kerdos is the wrong price. I really do. Like, I think, like I just said before, sprinters can take 2-3 runs to get fit. If there was one that you thought was going to step out, if you thought you owned a horse like him and you need him to step out of the pack and put his hand up at Royal Ascot and say, I'm here, Clive Potts is the man you want trading him. There's no one better for me trading those sort of horses. And I just think for that reason alone, you should be shorter than 16-1 on the basis of what I've seen over the weekend.
He has come back. So they tried him in Group 1 company last year behind Highfield Princess, and he ran a good race. He was only beaten 2.5 lengths, but he finished 8th. Aesop's Fables was ahead of him that day. So he needs to turn the form around with him, and he's come out and won. He's had 2 runs, and he won his second start. He's then started out this season at Bath in a handicap, where he clocked an RPR of 96. They've taken him to Newmarket for a Group 3. That was on heavy ground. A Newmarket Group 3, good ground. Again, over 5 furlongs. He's clocked an RPR of 109, finishing 5th, beating a length. And then he goes into a Group 2, upped in class, and gets an RPR of 118 and beats the Nunthorpe winner, Living the Dream. How the hell are you supposed to make any sense of this sprint division?
Yeah, the form of that horse Kerdos is strange. It's just very in and out. I think he won the Beverley Bullet last year on quick ground, and then he's won on soft ground at Haydock. I think the runners were quite strung out at Haydock Small Field. That he wasn't in too much trouble in running. It was a sort of easy target, Living the Dream. Yeah, so I think, like you said about Big Evs, Emmet, great to see that he's alive and well and kicking, because I thought that was quite a strange target at York in the listed event, and he didn't really have much competition in that race. So yeah, those are the horses that we have for the 5 furlong sprinting division, and make of it what you want, I suppose.
Maybe I'm being a little bit biased here about the Australian filly, because I was talking to an Australian racing expert the other day. We're hopefully going to have him on the show, so I'll save it till then to mention who it is, and it's not really fair to say his name given what I'm about to relay to our audience, but he was saying this is daft, bringing this horse to the UK. She just doesn't justify the trip at all. She's not good enough. She's not up there with the elite of the Australian sprinters that you've seen come to Royal Ascot in the past. And like, good luck to them. They'll have some fun. But the idea that she's going to win a Group 1 is kind of fanciful. That's his opinion. I didn't see a whole lot in that comeback, George, that made me go, oh yeah, I can't wait to back her the next day. But there were some people who thought differently to me. Some people thought she might turn the form around with Kerdos the next day. But did you see enough there to go? Like, she just seemed to stop very quickly. We were covering the race live on TalkSport 2, and I think my initial reaction to her was she almost looks like one of those American sprinters that run in those crazy 3 furlong, 4 furlong sprint races that we would never have in Britain or Ireland. It's almost like a short runner. It's just going really well and then just stopped.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. I haven't really seen enough there, but it's had a little break, had to adapt to being in England as well. Like, there's little bits and pieces where you can take it with a bit of a pinch of salt. But in the sprint races at Royal Ascot, anything that comes over from Australia is always going to be 2 points short, and it should be minimum, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the Schwazier effect, we call it. I don't know what we call it, but they're always going to treat them with a little bit more respect than maybe the form book suggests. I think it's probably as simple as that. But yeah, say, like you said, if you're Australian expert saying the Australian form's not good enough, then I'd be inclined to bow to his knowledge. But just purely based off having a first run in England, having not really had that much time since the last run in Australia, there's reasons to think that you could turn it around a little bit. You could bring about a bit more improvement, like a bit more time to adjust to being over here. Even things like the water, the hay, things like that. Maybe there's a chance we'll see a better performance next time, certainly in terms of the finishing effort. Whether or not in terms of overall form, I don't know how good the horse is, how good it needs to be. But certainly better than what we saw from Haydock has to be possible.
Yeah, and to be fair, horses like Star Spangled Banner and Merchant Navy came over from Coolmore, from Australia, and were handed to Aidan O'Brien. They were both pretty underwhelming on their comebacks, and then went to Royal Ascot and won. But the difference is they had proven Group 1 winning form already in the book in Australia, so you knew they could do it. She doesn't have that. She's got Group 3 winning form and Group 2 winning form, and she's been visually impressive in those, but she doesn't really have the Group 1 form. I don't think she justifies that position in the market at all, but we shall see. You mentioned Schwazier. It did remind me of being in a bookmaker's in Cork in 2003, way back in the day, and talking about that race with a friend of mine, Paddy Barry, and me going, this Schwazier, like, why would you bring a horse from Australia all the way to the UK unless you think it's going to win? And why would you book Johnny Murtagh unless you thought the horse... Why would Johnny Murtagh even take the ride unless he thought it was going to win? And Paddy Barry talked me out of it. He's like, Australians, they're only here for a session. Don't worry about it, boy. It's got no chance at all. 33-1. Oh, man. To be fair, I talked him out of plenty of bets over the years that turned out to win, so...
It's not exactly an unknown story, but people in the stable yard, including some people who were working there for the BHA, who went round to the box just to have a look at the horse to laugh at it. Because it looked so unusual. They said it looked like a cart horse.
Yeah.
And there were people literally going out, you've got to come and see this Australian horse. And they'd go around, check no one was there, have a look over the door and laugh at the horse.
Poor horse, yeah. Bit harsh.
He showed them.
He had the last laugh, anyway.
Yeah, it's a bit like the guy who bought King of Steel was on Nick Luck's show last year. And he was saying that the joke at the sales in America was, do you want to go see the police horse? He's too big, he'll be useless. And people were laughing at him for paying 200 grand for the horse. Well, they're not laughing now. Classic placed in a Group 1 winner. Although, I really didn't like what happened with that. Like, the insinuation that the injury is caused by something that Roger Varian did. And then, I don't... You're pushing buttons I don't want... You're asking me to cross a line I don't want to cross, Matt Chapman. How many trainers is he going to burn through? Because Crypto Force went from Michael O'Callaghan to the Gosdens, never ran for them. Now is with Adrian Murray, ran well the other day. But if you go down through the list of horses that Ammo have and the amount of them that have transferred from various different trainers to various different trainers, that's not normal behavior. And factor in you've also burned through a number of stable jockeys as well, including in the middle of a season.
It's very odd. Very, very odd. Anyway.
What was the horse called who finished third in the cross country? He went about 5 trainers in 2 seasons. Rocco something? Some Rocco?
Oh my God. Answers on.
Sid Hosey, Harriet Bethel.
Lieutenant Rocco.
Yeah, Lieutenant Rocco, is it? Yeah. You look through that. That went to 2 trainers it didn't run for, I think. Yeah. So we could be looking at that sort of situation.
Yeah. There's something odd there. That reminds me, we did a trivia question on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't give out the answer. It was who had won the first running of the Derby trial at Leopardstown, which was 40 years ago. Does anybody know who won the first running of what is now the Cashel Hotel Derby trial?
No idea.
No chance.
Well, to be fair, I was 2. So this was very much a trivia question that I had to go and look up. Sadler's Wells. Sadler's Wells, yeah. There was a number of people got that right on YouTube. I will give you a mention at the end of the show. I promise. We'll put that in. But well done to everybody who got it right. The Weatherby's Greenlands Stakes, Group 2 over 6 furlongs, just continues to be swings and roundabouts. This is over the 6 furlongs, but Mitbaahy comes out on top. Brilliant ride from Jamie Spencer. He had a terrific weekend at the Curragh. Beats Regional and Io Syria. Never mind. With Art Power, who loves the Curragh. He's a bit of a hero of ours, by the way, given the big favour he did for us on Champions Day at Ascot. Thank you very much, Art Power. I was being laughed at on the show for putting him up. And to be fair, Paul Jacobs was the first person to message me and go, that's a well done, son. Be interesting to see what he can do later in the season and back to the Curragh. I'm sure he's going to be able to go and win. But again, Lucy, this is just, they're all beating one another. We're talking about the 6 furlong sprinters now, but it's just whoever's turn it is to go into the winner's enclosure. And on this occasion, it was Mitbaahy's.
Yeah, it definitely seemed that way, didn't it, at the weekend? Obviously, a great, typical Jamie Spencer ride, last to first. Great weekend for Victory Hay as well. Obviously, the Silks were seen in the winner's enclosure on a number of occasions at the weekend. And Regional led the race, and he's always good on the front end, that horse. And Art Power was the first to sort of challenge Regional, and he's a hero, like you said, Emmet. Art Power. He's gone down again on his sword, and he tries hard in all his races. Just a shame that he wasn't able to win again in Ireland, because he loves racing over there. But yeah, it was a good ride by Jamie Spencer. The horse got up in the dying stages of the race.
It was a cracking performance, to be fair. But oops. See, I went onto the iPad to get the comments from the people who got it right, and it jumped the AirPods. And never mind. Apologies, everybody. George Gorman, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I'll be very short and sweet on it, to be honest. Very similar to what you said, Emmet. It's sort of just a carousel of whose turn it is to win, especially by the time they get to this age. And Mitbaahy got the best ride in the race. Simple as that. I very much enjoyed listening to Jamie Spencer talk about it. So he was concerned the horse hadn't finished its races off over 6. He was just going to switch it off and ride the horse for the turn of foot that he knew he had. And it's scarcely have gone better, could it? Like, I thought he was going to go right through the middle of them at one point. He does angle out. I didn't think it was going to be a proper, almost Soul Power-esque sort of finish to the race, like weaving in and out of them. But I think it's simple as that. They said they take their turns to win. It might not have been Mitbaahy's turn today if it wasn't for such a brilliant ride from Jamie Spencer. Whether he can pull it off again as the season goes on, I don't know. But luckily, when you're riding cold out the back like that, you're not really as beholden to what the other horses are doing. People can't stop you from doing it. That's what I mean. Whereas if you need to go on the front end and make sure it's a good gallop, someone can make sure you go too fast or get in front of you and make sure you go a bit slower. Jamie Spencer can keep riding this horse like this, and it's going to pay off every now and again.
Yeah, when he gets it right, he's absolutely mustard. When he gets it wrong, just go on X, and there's going to be a whole host of abuse for the guy. Because, obviously he did it on purpose. Yeah, well, that is the life of a jockey, indeed. And we'll talk about mental health in British racing and in Irish racing for that matter as well. There's some very alarming statistics in the next episode of the Final Furlong podcast. We'll move on to what I thought was a really exciting winner of the 10 furlong maiden. I mean, he stands out like a sore thumb. He's an Aidan O'Brien trained Galileo, ridden by Ryan Moore, who wins by 8 lengths at the Curragh. Obviously, everyone's going to be talking about him afterwards. Jan Brueghel, he was a bit of a negative in the betting, Lucy, but there was no negative about his performance on track. Aidan was saying he's been a difficult horse to get right, but he's a potentially proper group performer.
Yeah, you can probably see that considering he hasn't run as a 2-year-old, can't you? That was his first run this year as a 3-year-old. Yeah, he was second in the market, wasn't he? And I like the way he flicked across the ground. I think he shows that he's a good mover, and you can't not be impressed by the win over a mile and a quarter on his first start as a 3-year-old. And it was Ozark Days, wasn't it, that went off favourite, and those two went off like lightning fast from the gates, and it was those two at the front end, and the horse that's won, the Aidan O'Brien trained horse, has come out on top, and he does look like a smart prospect. Nice breeding as well. Yeah,
he's a full brother to the Irish Derby winner. Irish Derby winner, what am I talking about? He's a full brother to Sovereign, Irish Derby winner. Yeah, for some reason I was thinking of the poor old fella who ended up down in the first Derby winner to be gelded since the 1800s, early 1800s. What's his name again? He's down in Australia. He's winning a few group races down there now again. It's good to see him rolling back again. He won the COVID Derby. I think he won this maiden.
Who is it?
No, Serpentine's jump side now, is he?
No, that's him. Serpentine, yeah. Septimus was in my head, and that was the wrong decade. I couldn't get Septimus out of
Wings of Eagles and Serpentine mixed up in my head because they're both massive prices and they're both Aidan O'Brien.
Yeah, and not Aidan O'Brien first choice ridden on the day either. That Serpentine is an intriguing one. Septimus gives me some very good memories. But look, obviously Sovereign won the Irish Derby that COVID year as well, if I remember correctly. Jeez, we've all memory hold that, haven't we? Just like we do not want to remember what was going on back then. Anyway, it's all moving swiftly along, and yay, feel good stuff.
Nothing that happened sporting wise that year counts, does it? Especially not Premier League.
Shut your mouth, Gorman. Shut your mouth. By the way, this is a question from my TalkSport producer. Given that you're wearing the jacket, does the fact that Manchester United won the FA Cup, that Liverpool won the League Cup, mean that both of those teams had a better season than Arsenal, considering you failed to win the Premier League and any trophy, and the Community Shield does not count?
No, I think Arsenal had a better season.
Where's your silverware?
Regrettably, I think focusing on the league has sort of led to a rather astonishing lack of silverware, but it'll bear off. I just don't know what you got to do to beat City. I just don't know what you got to do. We lost one game. We lost one game and drew one game after Christmas, and the draw was with them, so that doesn't even count as a loss of points. So what you got to do, I don't know.
It's actually getting to be a bit depressing now.
Did you see 180 people showed up to their Premier League parade?
That can't be right.
True. Look at the videos. There's no one there.
Well, I did see somebody
from London.
Well, that's the same as Man United, to be fair. They're not really Manchester people. It's like the most heavily supported club in London is Manchester United, or at least it used to be back in the day. I'm not having a go, Man United fans. You now know what it felt like to be a Liverpool fan in the 90s and the mid-2010s, and this season, for that matter. And well done on the FA Cup. It was a brilliant performance. Also, give Eric Ten Hag a new contract and keep him there. He deserves it. Good manager. No need to change. No need to change at all. I say give him a decade-long contract, and if he wins another piece of silverware, keep him there too. Yeah. All those guys, they're brilliant. They're amazing. Give another contract to Casemiro. Outstanding player. But it's kind of just depressing. Like, they've breached all those financial regulations. There's nothing being done about it. Meanwhile, Everton are being treated appallingly for similar breaches, apparently, allegedly, depending on which media you read.
And nothing will ever happen over those breaches. They'll get fined and that'll be that. Nothing will ever happen.
Yeah.
And even if
Is
it
this
is,
what
they're going to do, give us 2 Premier League trophies in hindsight. So,
Yeah, we get one as well. Well, I guarantee you, if they do that, I guarantee you there will be a bigger crowd to support Arsenal parading through London for the 2 trophies that are handed to them after the fact, and for Liverpool as well, than turned out for Manchester City actually celebrating their league win. I don't believe for a second that there was only 180 people there, but I did see on X that they were using very deceptive camera angles to try and make it look like there was a bigger crowd.
I've seen pictures where they've copied and pasted the same section of crowd again and again.
Oh, is this like a royal photo incident?
Yeah, exactly like that one.
Also, where is Kate Middleton?
Has anybody seen her?
She's recovering, Emmet. She's recovering.
Last seen on the 28th. That was an AI video. Last seen on the 28th of December.
Allegedly, it was an AI video. Apparently, she wore the exact same jumper in the exact same setting about 7 years ago for something else. It's weird. It's very, very odd.
It all got a bit spooky, didn't it, when there were pictures at the farm shop or something? It's just a bit spooky.
That's
Conspiracy
that guy.
theories.
That guy, Lucy, did visual promotion for Lego. So he's an experienced photographer.
He's a clever guy.
If he's so good, why was he taking his video and his picture from his car and not getting out to photograph 2 of the most famous people in the world, one of whom hadn't been seen since the 28th of December? Why would he video it in that particular way? Where it could be anybody. It could have been you, Lucy, strolling through there. It was probably more likely to be you.
Probably more like carrying the shopping bags, definitely.
Yeah, it's you and George, actually. George is the same height as Prince William. It was the two, we cracked it. It was Lucy and George strutting through. And George, how dare you not carry that bag for Lucy? How dare you?
I'd agree, yeah.
Yeah, it could be the bloody royal family. Yeah, what was it, the TV show, the sitcom with the royal family with an E? It could be, I never watched a single episode of that, and it could be them walking through, and I'd have more interest than the royal family.
Just for clarification, by the way, in case anybody can't take a joke, like, my mother has cancer, and it's in her spine. Cancer is terrible. It's the worst thing. And I wish Kate a very speedy recovery. It's brutal. You don't withdraw from the world entirely, though. You don't just not see anybody anymore, or not go on social media, or not talk to anybody. It's just very, very odd. It's really weird. And it's the way that the royal family have handled it. Like, they accused her of being such a photograph enthusiast that she doctored an image herself. Why are you blaming her for your press release of a photograph? And then why is she not just coming out properly and talking? Why was Prince William not with her on the bench? Because that's what the conspiracy theorists then go with. They say that apparently AI is very good at mimicking an individual, but it struggles to mimic 2 people.
We have seen her in the garden on the bench, like you rightly said, Emmet. So we have seen her.
One time, wearing a jumper that she wore in that exact same setting 7 years ago.
But yeah,
that's what the conspiracy theorists say.
Yes, there are conspiracy theories about it, aren't there? We've cracked the code you've cracked the code about the shopping, the farm shop.
I'm glad you admit that it was you. I'm taking that as an admission that it was you, Lucy.
You've cracked that code, but the rest of it is all still bizarre.
It should be taught as a lesson as to how not to handle public relations. This is not how you do it. Do exactly the opposite of what the royal family did. Handle it better. But we wish her well. And we have an eagle eye out for when Kate Middleton returns. I know there's somebody watching this right now who is losing their mind. How dare you make such insinuations? How dare you?
Someone's upset about that. They won't like what I said.
Yeah, if somebody's upset about that.
The Queen, big fan, gave my grandpa lots of rides. We like her. She was great.
Arizona Blaze. Is he going to be Royal Ascot bound? Well, he will be, but is he going to be Royal Ascot material? He beat Camille Pizarro, who was almost taken as a given, Lucy, that this was going to be another Ballydoyle superstar for Royal Ascot. He only had to pass this test. In memory of Teresa Mernan, Marble Hill Stakes. It's a race Aidan O'Brien has done well in the past. Blackbeard won it. To be fair, he failed at Royal Ascot, but went on to win Group 1s afterwards. Fairyland and Caravaggio went from this race to go and win at the Royal Meeting, but it wasn't to be for Camille Pizarro and was beaten fair and square by Arizona Blaze, who looks like a proper prospect.
Yeah, it was a great run by Arizona Blaze because he was quite keen in the early parts, wasn't he? I don't think David Egan was that keen on taking up the running, but in the end he had no choice because the horse was so keen. So I think he just let him bowl along. From what I could see, it didn't look like anyone really wanted to go forward. So yeah, Camille Pizarro did come past Arizona Blaze at one point. It was a good battle towards the line, and Arizona Blaze battled back. And he's a smart horse. First crop as well, I think, of Sergei Prokofiev, and it looks as though he could be a Royal Ascot 2-year-old. He looks smart.
Yeah, I think Laura Joy, who we did a podcast with, that I sent to an editor, and it got deleted, and then was finally sent back to us like a year later, going, "Oh, here you go." It's like, yeah, thanks a bunch. He wanted payment for it too, by the way, a year after it had been sent, with distorted audio. He was not paid. But she did a full breakdown of Sergei Prokofiev for The Sporting Life and what a exciting stallion he's turning out to be so far this season. I remember him racing for Aidan O'Brien, and there was a lot of talk about him, a lot of excitement about what he could be. It didn't quite happen for him, but it is happening at stud. It's just, he's another example of the fact that it's almost impossible to work out who's going to make it as a stallion and who isn't. And racecourse performance is not always indicative of who's going to be a superstar stallion. Danehill Dancer may be a good example of that, but this one looks to be a proper one, George Gorman, and no reason to think he's not Royal Ascot class on the basis of this.
Yeah, first should be said, it couldn't be a more fitting tribute to Teresa Marnan and the Marnan family. A two-year-old race for speedy horses, Group 3, and I'm sure they'll have really enjoyed having this sort of day out in Teresa's name. Lovely family, and obviously steeped in sort of racing history. The approach I would take towards this fairly similar to the approach I took to a race earlier. The Aidan O'Brien's horses taking a little longer to come to themselves. We all know the Ammo Racing horses are all sort of kept in a sort of pre-training place where they're sort of sent to the trainers pretty much a week off a run. So on that very basis, with only a head in it, I would be more keen to be with Camille Pizarro next time, just purely off the basis I think probably more scope for improvement as the season goes on. Taking nothing away from Arizona Blaze, that's not to say it's going to run once and be over, it's going to be over the top after this day. It's still, probably still going to go and win races as the season goes on, but with purely a look at these front two, Camille Pizarro is the one I'll be literally taking forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to drop him back in trip to 5 furlongs, and it'll probably bring out the best in him. Didn't they win or go very close to winning the Windsor Castle last year with a Wooden Basset? Was that race won? Was that race won by Big Evs?
Jeez, I need my brain.
Thinking about it like that. That's actually one of Con Marnan's favourite stallions, old Wooden Basset. Like, he had a couple of Wooden Bassets when I was there. One of whom was Different League, who won the Albany Stakes for him. That would have been a really fitting winner for Wooden Basset to have got the winner of the race. But such is life. That would have been really nice.
I'm glad you mentioned that, by the way. That was a very nice thing to say. Every now and again, my memory does actually work out quite well, and not like a goldfish, just forgetting everything seconds after I've said it or seconds after I've seen it. Big Evs beat Johannes Brahms. Johannes Brahms was sent off a very short price favourite for the Windsor Castle. He was a Siuni, though, not a Wooden Basset. Yeah, didn't quite hold up. But Big Evs was 20-1. Jeez, that's big now, considering. I wouldn't be surprised if this Wooden Basset drops back to 5 furlongs and that's the race he ends up going for, the Windsor Castle. They have options for the Norfolk, and they've got some nice 2-year-olds, Aidan O'Brien, but maybe not quite the strength that they thought they were going to have. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Final Furlong Podcast. I've thoroughly enjoyed having Lucy and George back on the show. I could talk to them all night, which is why we've recorded for so long, but I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, a like on YouTube is much appreciated. That's all we're asking of you. Hit the like button. That's it. And you can follow us all on social media. We'll put up the tags for everybody in a few minutes. From Lucy Russell Hughes, George Gorman, and myself, gamble responsibly, look after yourself and each other. We'll talk to you again very, very soon on the Final Furlong Podcast. God bless.
The Final Furlong Podcast is proudly brought to you by Geoff Banks Bet. Join the excitement and sign up to Geoff Banks Online now to get 10% off any net losses returned as cash after your first month of betting up to £500 at geoffbanks.bet.